Why do you seem to hate us of the Omnissiah beliefs? Why do you seem to believe us useless and without reason? We are logic incarnate, trying to rid weakness of the flesh and become more like the machine. What logic do you have against our beliefs?
I'm glad you asked, Danny. Now, a lot of this has to do with your lore and your damn codex. So let's talk about your lore.
Hold on a second. You have a codex about us? Like the Codex Astartes?
Sort of. It's an information book. Gives basic information about your combat tactics, data sheets for your units, and a few stories, usually written by someone in your timeline who has a limited view on the world. Like when an old Tyranid codex had one of you state that the Tyranids might have been running from someone, but I know it involves a machine breaking. Either way...
A machine did what?
Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. We'll talk about this in my next Best of the Worst video. Now, let's get into what your people believe in. Your kind worship a machine god, a literal deus ex machina. The machine cult seems to believe that their deity that is essentially my belief's trinity. The Emperor of Mankind, a literal machine, and the planet Mars itself. And your magus know what is causing the advanced knowledge growth that's in your planet. Then we've got your limitations on tech development. You've got these stupid rules that say that you can't advance technology. Apparently, your cult believes that advancing technology at all will anger a deity of machines, a thing that is absolutely necessary to machines, computers, and technology to continue. Because of this stupid rule, there's a limited number of Terminators, a few Titans, and everything you have is breaking at a ridiculous rate. In order to have any sort of new technology, your order requires you to find an STC, which is essentially a digital blueprint, in order to build or fix anything. Making something new is executable by the Adeptus Mechanicus. Belisarius Call, your HNIC, has technically followed this rule by making guesses, though some suggest he's actually changing STCs in order to allow new tech to flourish and hide his tracks. Is this true? I don't know. But he is actually allowing the game to add new things, which I'm all for. Now, if you've only gave us Dark Mechanicus faction so that we could brand spanking new weapons, given Chaos Marines won't make anything new either and are still using Heresy Age tech, seriously, I don't understand what everyone's problem with advancement is. The High Lords of Terra have made rules about the Men of Iron, but I still don't have restrictions on machine spirits, which have become self-aware. They demand you jack them off. Now, I pointed out some time ago that Adeptus Mechanicus has an issue where 1/3 of their army can't use their damn army rule. And you know what the Codex does to fix that? Nothing. Well, arguably they have a detachment that allows some more units to use the rule, which still is absolutely worthless. How many units does it allow to use the damn thing? 2! 2 different units. And neither of them are battle line. Speaking of detachments, let's talk about these things. Rad Cohort is still a thing, but it looks like they renamed it to Rad Zone Corps and made it slightly better. The rolls on the abilities are now a 3+ and 5+ for take cover. Changes to the enhancement make it this a lot better, but still just not worth it. If you want to win anything against anyone not Astra Militarum, which is a name I want to talk about in the future. Let's talk about other detachments. Cohort Cybernetica is built around AIs and vehicles. This one lets you, that's those with the Legio Cybernetica keyword, use the army rule, which means either you or your enemy need to deploy and stick in the deployment zone. This one is alright if you like cars, I guess. Datasom Conclave, which feels like a heretical name, is built around Cult Mechanicus models, which includes tech priests like you, Danny, and electro priests. I have no idea what the difference is other than electros ain't full machine. This thing lets you essentially choose between guns or close quarters battles for priests. This is just bad. Explorator Manipul is actually pretty alright. It essentially is built around going from point to point and boosting yourself up by capturing objectives and actually doing what nobody in a modern PvP game will do. For the love of God, boost up your slam power by actually doing your job. Now we got Skitarii Hunter Cohort, which is actually pretty decent, given this actually affects the Skitarii units, which is the vast majority of the army, and actually helps them out. Built around stealth and sniping and such, honestly, stealth detachments are always a good option. This takes advantage of how lacking in melee 10th edition really is. And I can see people actually winning with this detachment, though only if God is actually blessing them. In all honesty, this is a lot better than what it was at the beginning, but it's far from the early 9th edition capabilities. Of course, something else added to this codex. It is the only army to get 2 combat patrols, and they're both absolutely trash. The original one is called Manipul Varask Alpha, and is made up of a Tech Priest Engineer, a unit of 10 Skitarii Rangers, a unit of 3 Cataphron Destroyers, and a single Dune Crawler, for a total of 390 points. This is trash. And I want to point out that 9th edition rules made Combat Patrols games a 500 point game. But now it's a preset game with worthless enhancements and worthless everything, really. And the fact that it's so few points is rather worrying. Then we got the new one, Purge Core Deltix 9. It's made of a Tech Priest Manipulus, a Skitarii Vanguard with 10 models, a Cerberus Sulfur Hound unit with 3 models, a Teraxi Sterilizer unit with 5 models, which I had to check the Codex because the phone app doesn't actually tell you the number of models in any of these. And how many points does this combat patrol go for? 255. Half of what's expected of a combat patrol. And this has no vehicles as the horse model and glass flying torture. Robo horses don't even count as vehicles. They're a mount, but not a car vehicle. To be fair, apparently Outriders don't count as vehicles either, despite using motorcycles? But whatever, I guess. Next thing you know, the ATV won't be a vehicle either. Hell, you know what my biggest issue with your tech priests are?
And what may that be, if I may inquire?
Well, the thing is, if I tell you, you'll break. But you know how your kind illegalized using Xenos tech? Well, let's talk about your machine god. Remember how I said there were 3 parts? Well, you know what that one part I mentioned as Mars itself? Well, it's a Necron device, kind of. Your machine god is literally a liar, a cheater, and a thief. And the thief is the Necron Catan shard called the Void Dragon. Yeah, how about them apples? And you know how it got there? Neoth, the Emperor of Mankind, stabbed it with a lance, calling himself George. Yeah, the Emperor of Mankind is Saint George according to your timeline. Meanwhile, I call that heresy right there, and I want to go on a crusade with my 12 gauge and a 308. So apparently, the Emperor might be Turkish, maybe, but I'm not going to try and analyze a man made of other man's souls and sprouted brain magic, and gets mad at people for worshipping religions like my own. He shoved the Void Dragon into your planet, has been using you ever since. Danny? You actually broke. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna shove off.